Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with a band that has not been on the podcast before, but I think you are and are becoming more of kind of a known quantity in Manitoba. Some of your music that's come out in the past couple of years has been very highly regarded. You had a Juno nomination, lots of big things happening, and I'm sure we can get into all of that. But the best way to start this off is for listeners to be able to put a name to the voice. If the two of you could introduce yourselves and then what you do in the duo.
For sure. I'm Nadia Burnstick, and
I'm Jason Burnstick.
Right
and
on.
together we're the folk duo Burnstick. And so in that duo, we both sing, play guitar, and are both the singer-songwriters for that duo.
Cool. Well, and I was gonna
And we're also married.
Oh yeah.
that makes it convenient, I guess, to book shows and things, right? You don't have to go around finding band members all over the place. I was going to ask you to start off how you define the music that you play. I mean, you described it as a folk duo. Is that sort of the Cole's Notes version of what you do? Did you go like a capital F folk kind of? We are a folk group.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it starts, but I think we're kind of we're definitely a little moody, I would say at times. Maybe pushing the folk aspect a little bit. Maybe pushing a little bit past it, and a little bit into Americana. There's a little bit of like blues influence for sure, but yeah, definitely rooted in folk for sure.
Yeah, and I think we both come to the table with like a sort of different, like you're more blues and I'm more pop, to be honest. So I think when we come together, it just creates this, I think it's rooted in folk, but it's kind of a little bit bigger than that. Like more, it's not definitely not traditional and a little bit more contemporary. Some of our songs sort of sway towards more bluesy and some of our songs sway towards more sort of alternative folk.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's where we meet.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're in a good place to do that too, because all of those genres have kind of a big audience and a big sort of scene here in Manitoba. I mean, there's roots, Americana, folk, blues, everything you just named. It's been sort of big here kind of forever. So I imagine that's got to help too. Is being interested in those styles of music and putting those out there in a community that's kind of already open to that sort of stuff.
Definitely. And I mean, Winnipeg, or Manitoba, like there's so many good musicians here. And I think that like everyone that we know does all of those kinds of genres of music too. Like I think it's just like this place, this hub of like all of these types of music and everyone kind of does everything. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. It's a good one of the good things about living in it's almost like a hidden secret in Manitoba. I think a lot of people outside of the province aren't necessarily aware of just how deep and how diverse the music scene is here. But we've got
It's
a lot of people.
unreal. It's second to none. There's no two ways about it. Like you can kind of go anywhere in Canada, and Winnipeg just is cream of the crop for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is.
So you do have new music coming out, and that's obviously what we're going to talk about today. But getting so much critical acclaim for your previous record. I mean, you have a Juno nomination, you getting good reviews, things like that. What kind of pressure does that put on you to do a follow up? I mean, do you have that? Is that in the back of your mind when you're making new music? Oh, I have to sort of top the last one. I mean, I think that happens for everyone, regardless of how well their previous record did. But just having that kind of the idea of getting national attention, and then how do you one up that?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's not that with the first one we cut corners or any of that stuff. But I think with this one we definitely moved with the strategy, and we're pretty like for me, I was really focused on like getting like really the best tones out of everything that we could possibly do.
Okay.
So that was kind of on the table. I didn't want to like, kind of skip that step at all. And not to say we did that before, but I was just more tedious with everything this time around. And we also used the same musicians for the record, this one. So we had the same drummer, same bass player, same studio, same space. And so it's more cohesive that way as well. So that's another thing too, where the other one we kind of recorded at different studios and moved around and used different players. So it feels a little bit like this, whereas this one feels like it's a thing.
And I think like for the first album, I mean, it was nice to get that recognition. It was really cool. But it was kind of funny. Like, I feel like our first album, we were sort of finding what we were as Burnstick. Like, we didn't really even know yet. So we had some of your songs and some of my songs, and we kind of like did what we could with them. And I love them. I think it sounds really, it's a beautiful album. But I feel like with this second album, we just really have found what our sound is and how we write together and how we create these Burnstick songs that aren't just necessarily each of our songs brought together. So to me, this new album that's going to be coming out just has a very, that's to me the sound of Burnstick. Like that's what it should sound like. So that'll be fun to see if people enjoy it.
Well, and that's something I guess just over time you're going to develop anyways, figure out what works and what sound you want to get out of the project.
Definitely. And I think just even playing together more and more since then, we just obviously have played so much more.
Yeah, helps.
So with this new music coming out, I know you have a single and you have, like you said, the album coming out. What can people expect that maybe who have heard your previous record or seen you play live and have an idea of what they feel your sound is like? How has it progressed on this album sonically, like as far as the actual music itself? What has changed, and what do you think is sort of the difference between the two albums?
Well, for me, again, it's just like sonically, tonally, like it's next level for us. And I, like I said, worked really hard on getting some really great tones out of everything that I could, there's no like, I didn't go, okay, that's good enough. We didn't settle for like any of that. So it was just like,
Yeah.
if it meant redoing, a bunch of guitar tracks, then we did that, so it's like, there's no like settling on anything. And it came with vocals as well. Like we did vocals and parts and just like, let's do better. So it's that thing, and we just worked really hard on this one. Yeah, I think what to expect is there is definitely like a flavor that we have that you're going to hear more of. But I feel like this one, I almost feel like any of the tracks could be put on a movie score. Is kind of what it feels like with this one. It has a very like cinematic vibe, kind of almost throughout, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if that also comes because we do music for film and we've been doing that for years together as well. And I mean, you more than me, but like sometimes some projects together. And I wonder if that sort of also influenced the album or how we wrote for the album or how we composed the music for it. So there's still the same, I think everyone, like people that have listened to the first album have will expect sort of that same. Our dog's like barking. Sorry, we're at home.
No, it's good. I got a dog back there too. I'm waiting for it to start working.
We'll expect, but I think everyone that has heard the first album you can expect, a little bit of that same. So the harmonies are still there and that kind of vibe. But I think it's just a little bit bigger, better, a little bit more cinematic, I think, in feel. But I think when we really write from a place where we feel something really strongly, and I hope that each song sort of brings that emotion to people listening to it.
Well, on that cinematic feeling of the music, how does that work now that we're in an era where you can't really guarantee that people are going to listen to more than one song on a record or more than even a few seconds of a song? And when you're doing something that has that kind of vibe to it, usually that's a longer, more drawn out sound. I mean, if you're doing something cinematic, I would assume you want people to start at the beginning and sort of, go through the whole journey of the record. How do you kind of account for the fact that people are going to be hitting skip just because that's how they listen to music now? I mean, do you have to kind of rework the songs individually to make them stand out as their own thing, including as part of the mix, if that makes sense?
I think all you can ever do is your best and hope that people enjoy it and just work really hard at something. You can't guarantee nothing. Like we feel like this record is better than our first, and like I feel like song wise, writing wise, sound wise, sonically, like it's all put together like really well. But it doesn't mean that we're guaranteed anything, so it's just like all I can do is hope that people will enjoy it. That's it.
Yeah. And I think like I can't expect people to listen differently than they do. I think that's just how it is now. And I think, I think on our album we still do have like separate songs. It's not
Yeah.
just like one big thing. And so I'm sure people that are our listeners will have their favorites and just skip to those, and I think that's fine. They stand out on by themselves. But for us, I think where we, sell the most albums or where people will come and listen to us is from our live shows. And so
Right.
I think that's where, they'll hear something in the live show and that's what they'll want to hear on the album. And I think those are the listeners that will come and listen to the whole song. And so I can't expect everyone to just change the way they listen to music, but I'm hoping that those people that come to our live shows are the ones that will most likely listen to the album and listen to the songs. And I think that's okay. I think that's I think that's totally fine. Yeah.
How did the recorded songs translate to a live setting? I mean, are they fairly faithful to the sound on the record, or do you have to do a lot of changes or just reimaginings of some of these songs in order to perform them live?
Some there's I would say there's a one, maybe two that were kind of maybe live, might be just a little bit different, maybe in the solo part or something.
Okay.
Just because we won't have the band behind us, but if we did, it could be exactly the same, ish. Yeah, so there's a little bit difference that way, but mostly we're staying pretty true to the album as much as we can.
Cool.
Structurally, the songs are the same, whether they're on the album or live. It's just when we are able to add a lot more, we do, which we do on the album. And live, we're either playing as a duo or a trio, so it's going to be definitely a little bit smaller. But structurally, the songs are the same. They don't really change all that much.
Do you have a preference as far as the size of the band you're playing with? Like, would you rather play all the time with the full group, or are you comfortable with the duo format?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, bigger, better. It's like, yeah.
I like the small, I love playing as a duo or a trio. Like I like having that backup drummer with us.
Yeah.
Right.
Helps a lot. I think that adds an energy. But I do like the small. I like playing small. You like playing big.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be nice to have that versatility, though, right? Because I mean, that definitely doesn't limit the type of venues you can play at. A duo or a trio, you can pretty much play anywhere. Whereas, I guess if you want to put on like a bigger spectacle of a show, you can do the full band thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some more folk fest gigs and bringing hopefully the trio to that situation, because I just think it's a nice, amazing fit for that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is the festival kind of circuit sort of where you feel this music fits in well? I mean, have you had a lot of success playing at festivals? I mean, obviously festivals are very different in size and sort of format from town to town and city to city, but has that been a fruitful pursuit for you?
Yeah, my two favorite, not to exclude anybody, but
Yeah.
favorite festivals have been in Nova Scotia, Lunenburg.
That was so much fun.
That was just
those kinds of folk festivals are fantastic.
Amazing.
And just fun. You're able to, I mean, I love the big festivals and I would love to do more big festivals, but I find that sort of the not so big ones have a very community feel and everyone is just really there to listen and there's still going to be hundreds of people, but they're really there to listen. So you just get everyone's attention and they will show you how much they love you. That was one of the highlights, I think, from last summer.
Yeah, I love that festival. Another one was the
festival.
Vancouver Island Music Festival.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Love that one. It's just it's beautiful. It's just the air is great and people are amazing. It's so good.
But cool. I do think that those folk festivals are a good fit for us. Any kind of folk festivals where you're outside and you're able to connect with the audience is that's where we thrive, I think.
Well, speaking of having that kind of intimate connection with an audience, I understand your new single, promoting this new record that's coming out, has a very kind of personal subject matter. What the song's about. What is it like? I guess sort of writing and recording a song that deals with something emotional, personal, whatever it may be, and then kind of performing that to an audience. I mean, a lot of people I think that I've talked to have had very different experiences. Some of them are quite happy to put their hearts out on a record, but then when it comes to a live show, it's almost like an awkward situation because they're looking at the people who are hearing it. Like, how do you feel, the two of you, about kind of soul bearing emotional content in your songs, and then doing that to an audience? Would you rather have just a small group of people around you sort of listening really intently, or is this something that works with a larger crowd too?
It's kind of work both ways, but it's kind of like having a conversation with someone, that you connect with.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather not talk about the weather, I'd rather not like talk about those little things. Like let's get real here. Let's talk about some real stuff. And I think that's kind of, for me, with the performance piece, that's how it feels. Like we're talking about real stuff that matters to us.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of who we are, and some of the stuff people can relate to, I'm sure, being a parent or 60 Scoop kids, the
Right.
215, that sort of stuff, like, and stuff that, we're all connected to in some way or another. So, I mean, it's important. But I'd rather talk about real stuff than just surface stuff. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. I've never felt a negative reaction from that, or an awkward situation. It's never
No.
felt like that for us. I think
Well, that's good.
yeah. And we always, like, part of our live show is to tell these stories too, and so I think that that's a way to, and I think we do it lightly, even when it's like sort of deeper, more meaningful, or
Yeah.
Or harsh, or like harder topics to discuss. I think that we're able to joke and
Well, I wouldn't
make
say
it
joke.
not
I
joke.
would say more like it's not so graphic. When you get talking
Right.
about some stuff that's super profound, I think it's just more like realistic and kind of factual, but there is a story connection to it as well. But we definitely do like lighten the energy as well when the time is there too. So
Yeah.
and that's when kind of the more humor stuff comes into
Sure.
play. But you do need that release in a show, or if you're going to get heavy, you got to get light too. Like it's not
Yeah.
just all all hard all the way down all the
Yeah,
time.
you can't beat the audience to submission with just heavy subject matter, song after song
Yeah.
after song. For sure, you have to. Yeah, you got to. It has to flow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how I think we write our shows and do performances with that in mind. It's just like, okay, this is how this is going to go.
Yeah. Is that sort of dealing with real subject matter? Is that something you look for as a listener as well, as far as the music that you both listen to and consume sort of on your own time?
Yeah, it's I think it's more, for me, it's like it almost doesn't matter what it is, just as long as it's like I believe this person and I can connect to them. And whether they're just playing on ukulele, like I've seen people like hit some serious soul on ukulele,
Yeah, yeah,
blow my mind, or just voices and just like holy smokes. So it doesn't really matter. It's just as long as they're in it and you believe them, like it really doesn't matter for me.
And it can be, I feel like that goes kind of in, like, I like everything. So I love when a performer will just like be so real that I can relate to that and I feel something. But I also love like listening to like pop music where I don't have to think about anything. So I think it's
right.
like you need that sort of mix of both. And I mean, not that we do that in our show, but I think that I love all sorts of types of music, and I think that they all kind of mean something different, or you feel something different when you
Yeah.
hear different types of music.
Well, one of the things that's come up a lot on this show over the years is that Manitoba music fans, I guess in general, tend to have what seems like a very strong bullshit detector. If someone's not being real, I think that they root that out pretty quickly. And I think that if you look at the artists that have succeeded from here in whatever genre they're doing, the ones that are kind of representing themselves and their struggles and their loves and happy things and bad things and everything about their life, if it comes through as being authentic, I find that no matter how good they are at their instrument or whatever, those are the ones that seem to get sort of on continued success here because people want that for almost more than anywhere else. It seems to be the case from everyone I've talked to anyway. Do you see that?
Yeah,
I've never heard that, but
I've never
I
heard it, but I believe it, yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Or I believe it. I feel that when I hear music or when I listen to music.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of our writing, like we can only do what we know and
Of
where
course.
we come from and what we experienced, and that's it.
Yeah, makes
Even
total sense.
between the two of us, like there's things that that you write that I would never write. And there's things that I write that you would never have thought of or written because it's not something you've lived. But I think that we're able to support each other in those stories. But if I were to sing a song that you wrote specifically because of something you'd lived, it wouldn't go. It wouldn't no one would feel it because it's not true to me.
Right. And they'd be able to tell, yeah, for sure. No matter how much you knew about the subject matter or how interested you were in the topic, yeah, for sure. That authenticity of actually living something, whatever it is, right? Doesn't have to be anything super serious. It could be a minor thing that happened, but when you've lived it, it comes through for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a release date for this record yet? Has that been determined, or is it still sort of to come out in future?
It'll be in May.
Okay.
We don't have the date. We don't have the date pinned down, but it'll be released in May.
Do you have plans to like for what you're going to do to promote it as well? There are tours and things in the works on the back of the record being released.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a tour coming up in May with Home Roots.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So we'll be doing that tour in BC, and then we do have some festivals lined up for the summer. And then we're not sure for the fall yet. We're hoping probably another tour in the fall, so that we can do a little bit of more promo, and we're going to drop some singles too along the way.
Right on. And I guess
We
that
do
the
have
home.
something
Oh,
coming
sorry.
up in October as well that we can't talk about yet. So.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I forgot about that. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
have something in October too. That'll be really fun.
Cool.
So,
Cool. Hopefully, by the time someone could hear this in October, because the podcast, it kind of exists on the internet forever, right? So maybe they'll hear it and then they'll have to look you up and see what it is. I guess that home roots thing, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the intimacy and having that kind of an audience, like sort of the captive, small, intimate audience. Have you done those tours before with that organization?
No.
I have. I did as a solo francophone artist.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I did Chemin Chez Nous, which is like the French counterpart
Yeah.
to Home Roots. So I have done that. So I love those. Like it was really a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing it as Burnstick. We've done like house concerts before, just never through Home Roots.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
House concerts are the best. I feel like the more things have changed with the pandemic and everything like that, I don't even want to go to big shows anymore. Not that people shouldn't; they should absolutely go to big shows. But
Right.
personally, as a listener, I will choose a house show over pretty much anything these days. So there's definitely, I think, a growing sort of audience for those.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I totally get that. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. All crazy people and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit much, right? I mean, especially if I work from home. Like my day job is sitting in my basement on a computer, so going out is like, I don't know. House shows are perfect for that.
This is our studio. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, right on. If someone is hearing about you for the first time on the show, or maybe they're just kind of getting reintroduced to what you do, what's the best way to find out what you're up to as far as upcoming shows, releases? Like I said, someone could hear the day it gets released, or they could hear it a year and a half from now, and who knows what you're up to then. So where would you direct someone online to follow you or find out what your latest news is?
Well, there's the website, of course.
Yeah, go to our website, burnstickduo.com. Definitely, you can access everything from there, see our tour dates, or go, from there you can find our social media outlet like Facebook and Instagram and or any of the like platforms you listen to music to, like Spotify and all that. So all of the links are off of our website. I'd say go there first, and then you can kind of access everything from there.
Awesome.
We're pretty late to the game with the Instagram account thing. So
We're old.
yeah.
We always like do everything backwards.
So yeah, we're on there now. So yeah, add us.
I'll put a link to your Instagram in the show notes so
Thanks.
people can find you. Yeah,
Super funny.
That's awesome.
no, I get it. I'm old also, and I still haven't I still haven't moved on from physical music. Like I don't know how to use Spotify or anything, so I'm sitting here with tapes and records and CDs. So I get it. There's technology can be terrifying.
Yeah, but we've noticed like people still like people asked us like, oh, are you gonna have an actual physical copy of the album? Because I guess a lot of people aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But we sell our albums.
Yeah.
Whenever we do our live show, people still want the physical copy of the album.
We do
So
well. We do well like that.
yeah, and I like that. Like I like looking through lyrics.
Me too.
And with our new album too, like every song will be accompanied by this like black and white photograph that goes along with it, and I think that that's going to be nice to look through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. Awesome.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a dip, for a bit where CDs kind of went to the side. I thought, well, this is the end of it,
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like suddenly it's just making a comeback or something, and people want it. So it's nice. It's a nice, like, oh, okay, great. Yay.
Right.
I think it's weirdly making a comeback with younger people who never experienced it in the first place. You got a generation of teenagers to young adults now who grew up with streaming or iTunes or whatever, and now they
Yeah.
discover their parents' CDs, which sounds ridiculous to think about, but it's totally a thing.
I think just want something tangible, to look at and to like, respond to. And like I remember as a kid, like looking at records and looking at the photos and going through the song titles and just wondering about all this stuff. And I
Yeah.
just found it so fascinating. I loved it. I used to look at the AC/DC Hell's Bells like vinyl and be like, wow, this is like, the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's always it's definitely cool to see, especially when it's your own music too, right? A physical release, because you have it, you can hold it in your hands. This is the album. This is what all this work has kind of culminated in. You actually have an object to show for it.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I went to a few CD releases like in the past couple of years where they didn't have a CD. They had other merch though. They had like t-shirts and other things, but I could hear people asking like, "Oh, but I want to buy the CD. I want the CD." I'm like, "Yeah, where's the CD? Where's the CD? We'll have one."
Yeah.
If you want
Awesome.
one.
I mean, you can stream it too if you want, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can still go to all the platforms and listen to it, but if you want to see the lyrics or read the lyrics and see the photos and stuff, you can definitely buy it.
Awesome.